really, my jaw just dropped. Every single person that was just walking past me looked $1 million. They really cared about the way they looked. Beautiful hats and scarves and umbrellas and coats and boots and they just looked and the men had these wonderful, again, like long coats and pulling up their collars and takie wszyscy są byli takie przystojne, and the women were beautiful, the men were handsome. Family is very important in Poland. Ja tak uważam. To nie tylko w Warszawie, w okolicy, ale w ogóle na świecie też. If you go out to the countryside, people really care about the way they look.
Who smiles more?
But definitely English people. Definitely English people.
Oh.
But I think my family, for example, there's so many pictures we take, and I say, why are you not smiling? That's called the Polish smile. But in England, sadly, it's gone too much the other way. It's so relaxed that there are people who feel very comfortable. If they need to nip to the local shops to get some, bread or milk, they'll go in their pajamas and their slippers. Or they'll drop their children off at school in their pajamas and their slippers.
No.
Which is in Poland, that would never happen.
Yeah. My special guest, Sophie Perks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Let's talk about Polish and British customs and about cultural contrasts.
What are the most cultural differences?
Here in our behavior.
And when it comes to behavior, I'd probably say the most standout behavior as such is that you are more honest and direct in an initial meeting. So it's much more straightforward and direct. So in England, for example, meeting a friend, you're meeting anybody, when they say, hello, how are you? They're not really asking, how are you? So you don't really follow through with how you are. The how are you is an extension of hello.
So they don't want to
They don't want to know
how you are.
No, and it's I think we're trying to change that because mental health has become such more of a big issue talked about, that we actually should ask that question, and we should actually want to hear how somebody is. But if you want to know how somebody is, then you have to ask more detailed questions. How's your mother? How's work? You need to extend upon that. So yes, and in Poland, if you ask how somebody is, you'll hear about it. So if you ask anybody, an auntie or a cousin or a friend, if they've had a bad day, you will hear all about their bad day. If they have a tummy ache, if they're feeling ill, if they're stressed, if they miss the bus on the way to work, that's an obvious, I think, standout difference that I can tell you.
Yes. Who is more polite?
I think on the outset, English people, it's cultural in them to be polite. It's all about never complain, never explain. So on the outset, it's about being polite, making people feel comfortable, which is why you wouldn't necessarily download about your really bad day to somebody if they ask you how you are. You want to make them feel comfortable, and that's a sign of being polite. I think obviously Polish people are polite as well. Yes, I think there's a difference.
But
I'm trying to think yes.
If we learn English, we don't use please in the end of the sentence.
Yes, I have noticed that. So, for example, please, thank you, and sorry. We say sorry. We apologize. So, for example, if you are in a supermarket and somebody bashes into you with their trolley by accident, somebody bashes into you, you will say sorry. You'll say, I'm sorry. And they've bashed into you. So both of you say sorry, but there's no way you wouldn't say sorry if somebody hit you. So I think Polish people, if you give them, I guess if you're at a dinner table, maybe in a dinner table situation, and you ask somebody, can you pass me the butter? Would you always say, proszę podaj mi masło, or would you say, pass me the butter?
Proszę masło,
so you would say, would say poproszę.
Albo podaj mi masło.
Albo podaj mi masło. Ale w Anglii to nigdy by powiedziałaś podaj mi masło, bo to by było, it would be considered impolite. So
Bije brawo, bo przeszłaś na polski.
Oh, well, I try.
Twój polski jest coraz lepszy za każdym razem, kiedy się widzimy.
Nie wiem,
jak to się dzieje.
It should be a lot better, considering both my parents speak fluent Polish, but I guess the more times I will come and I will visit Poland, and as long as I keep practicing, of course it will only get better.
Kiedy na przykład jesteś w restauracji
Tak.
w Polsce
Tak.
i w Anglii,
Tak.
jaka jest różnica w relacji między klientem a waiterem, czyli kelnerem?
So I think that's a really good point, because I think culturally, what expectations do you have as Poles? Do you want to be fussed over? So I've had this conversation with a member of my family, and a lot of my experience, I have to add first of all, is only from my experience in Poland. My experience in Poland is coming to visit mainly my family, so I don't want to generalize for the whole of Poland. But I think an expectation from what I hear also a lot from my family is when people don't want to be fussed over here. When you go to a shop, you don't want to be fussed over. You want to buy your products, whatever they are, and you want to be served and you want to get out. You don't want to necessarily build a rapport with the person who works in the shop. And I think the same is in restaurants as well. It's very it's very transactional.
Czy dobrze wydaje mi się, że Polacy często nie zauważają kelnerów, na przykład kelnerów, a nawet dzieci angielskie mówią "Oh, thank you very much", kiedy dostaną herbatę z mlekiem.
Yes, so children from a young age, I have a 6-year-old, and every time he speaks to me about if he's anything, you're always reminding them, it's part of teaching them, say please, or he'll say, Mummy, will you read a book? Can you read a book to me? And I'll say, please. Even something as simple as, Mummy, can you read a book to me? Please. I'm hungry. Can I have a sandwich? Please. And then if I give him the sandwich and he'll say yummy and I'll say thank you, you still have to say thank you. So it's being shown to them from such a young age, I guess.
Ale nawet przekazywanie szefowi kuchni podziękowań, że było znakomite.
Yes, I think an English cultural custom is that we like to build rapport with people. So for us, when I told you about remember, this is just an experience that I have from my family, from when I come and I spend time with my family, and the conversations we have. I can't generalize for the whole of Poland whatsoever. But when you are, even that shop example I gave, that in Poland people just want to, there's an efficiency. Efficiency is the main key, there's the goal. In England, I think it's not. I think we quite like to have a rapport. We quite like to be, we enjoy being served. There's an enjoyment there. So if somebody says, how can I help you? You'll tell them. If you don't need some help, you'll also let them know. But if you do need some help, you'll say, yeah, I'm really looking for a pair of shoes for a particular wedding. Okay, so these are the options we have. These are the colours we have. What size would you like? But you really enjoy that interaction, and you never treat that person as the customer. You never treat the person who's serving on you as if they are a second-class citizen. You treat them as an equal. You're extremely grateful for being served. But just these little, it's called small talk. Polacy są w restauracji. I think I can give you to extend upon what I was saying. I don't think a Pole necessarily would make a waitress feel as special as we would try to make a waitress feel, and say thank you, and and after a meal, for example, we would very frequently, if the meal was particularly good, we'll say, can you let the chef know? Can you please I don't know if that's a custom in Poland, but in England we would always say, can you please let the chef know? The food was absolutely exquisite. It was absolutely delicious. Thank you.
And what about our punctuality?
Punctuality. Well, I haven't ever worked here, so I can give you an example. I organised a lunch in April for 18 of my cousins, and the last was to arrive. It was planned for 2, and the last arrived at 3. So that's the example. I don't think I've ever had that situation where so many people arrive late. You were invited to that lunch and you were on time with me. We both arrived on time.
Yes.
But then I do think you're more Brit than Pole sometimes, because I don't know, there's a lot about you that's you have very similar traits to a Brit. But I think nobody really looked at the time that I said that it was 2 o'clock. Most people arrived from 2:30 onwards, and the last was to arrive at just after 3. So that's what I can tell you about Poles' punctuality. That's my experience. Like I said, I can't generalize. English people we like to be on time. And there's a saying, if you're not on time, you're late.
What about hospitality? Who is more
Hospitable. That's a good question. If we go with her, I think family is very important in Poland. Ja tak uważam, I think. Even more so maybe in England, because English families are so small, generally speaking. Again, I can't generalize for the whole country, but you speak to most people in England, and their family doesn't really extend further than mum, dad, brother and sister. Usually they may their aunties and uncles, if their parents have brothers or sisters, and their first cousins, and that's where it ends.
Tak myślę o takiej gościnności. Chlebem i solą witamy, tak?
So yes, in Poland, I think because the family is just considered to be so much more important, keeping those relations, keeping that family tree together, that togetherness. We, from again my experience with my family, we like to get together, and whoever is hosting will make a huge effort with all the dania, with all the different dishes. The best tablecloths will be, presented on the table, and the tables will be set beautifully. And I think family time is really, really important. So from that perspective, but then English people have the custom of a Sunday roast. So it might be a smaller gathering of people, but every Sunday, traditionally, the family, whatever your family size may be, or however your family looks, everyone likes to get together and have a Sunday roast.
Czy jesteś sobie w stanie przypomnieć, jak byłaś pierwszy raz w Polsce? Co było dla ciebie szokujące w zachowaniu ludzi? Czy było coś takiego?
I can tell you a huge positive of the Polish culture, huge, is that Polish people care so much more about the way they look and how they present themselves. It's a massive compliment. Polish people really take care of themselves, So, for example, I'm staying at Wiejska now with my cousin, my best friend. I was just waiting for an Uber, and the people that were walking past were dressed so beautifully. I thought I was in a movie set.
It's near Parliament.
I thought I was on a movie set. I was like, everybody. Maybe that's why it was. And somebody did say that to me, but I mean, the even older women, the mature women, had these beautiful hats and scarves and umbrellas and coats and boots, and they just looked and the men had these wonderful, again, like long coats, and pulling up their collars, and takie wszyscy są byli takie przystojne, and the women were beautiful, the men were handsome, but moving away from Parliament, I was in a Park Ujazdowski, and again, I mean, people are wearing their best clothes to the park to take their children. And it's a park, I was in the park, which was primarily for children, because it's a big new adventure playground that's just opened, and I brought my son. And again, I mean, I thought I was in Mary Poppins, but in 2024, I was amazed. I was looking at all the apparel, what the women were wearing, what the men were, everyone just looks really smart, really well turned out. So these are the kind of observations that I make. Then I will mention that to somebody who within my network in Poland, which is obviously my family. So I mentioned it to my cousin, and he said, "It's funny you should mention that," because he now lives in England and has lived in England for 10 years this year. And he said he's noticed exactly the same. And he said, and you think that Warsaw is very well dressed, and because it's the capital and everyone's making a huge, he said, but it's the same as, even if you go out into the country, it's almost, people are so proud, they wouldn't leave their house unless they're made up.
And with beautiful makeup.
Beautiful makeup, hair, nails. And in England, sadly, and I don't know, I don't want to give England a bad name, and maybe I don't want to put it out there and be the one that's exposed. I don't want to be the one who's exposed England, but we are, sadly, I don't participate in this in this myself. But if people just need to run to the corner shop, they'll go in their slippers and their pajamas.
Oh.
Or they'll drop their children to school in their pajamas.
Oh. Now about your family, because you are Polish or English?
So I say to people in England that I'm Polish, and they always get very confused, like, what? But you don't speak with an accent. And I say, because my mother was born in Poland, my dad was born in England from two Poles that came to England after the Second World War. So really all the blood that runs through my body is Polish. But in Poland, I think my Polish cousins look at me as their English cousin. So I can't win. I really can't win. I'm kind of stuck. They definitely don't look at me as a full-on native, Pole. But I'm very proud of it. When I'm in England, people only meet me for 2 minutes, and within those 2 minutes, the first thing they need to know about me is that I'm Polish. So I'm very, very proud of my culture, and I try to keep it alive. I travel here as often as I can. My son has the connection now. My son has a bond with Poland. So I'm trying to keep it going through the next generation. So I am Polish. I was born in England.
Dobrze, to teraz po polsku.
Ojej, dla mnie to najtrudniejsze jest, że wstydzę się tak naprawdę.
Nie ma się co wstydzić, bo jest naprawdę znakomicie.
Nie.
Znakomicie.
Nie, moja mama, jak urodziła się mój brat, tak pierwsze jej dziecko, mama nie mówiła po polsku, no to tylko do niego mówiła po polsku. I on naprawdę, to był jego pierwszy język, było po polsku i on świetnie w ogóle zawsze, to nie jest tylko teraz mówi świetnie, bo mieszkał też w Polsce, nie wiem, 10 czy 12 lat, ale bo w ogóle przed tym, jak ja urodziłem się, no to moja mama już uczyła język angielski i chciała ćwiczyć tego. I mówiła do mnie po angielsku, rozumiesz? Po polsku nigdy było moje pierwszy język. Ja chyba wstydzę się mówić po polsku, bo cała moja rodzina tak mówią tak bardzo pięknie po angielsku na początku. Albo są nauczycielem, albo są profesorem po angielsku. Naprawdę tak ślicznie mówią. Oni mówią lepiej po angielsku niż ja mówię po polsku. Bo jest łatwiej z nimi mówić po angielsku, gdyby ich angielski jest lepiej. Their English is better than my Polish.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's practice, definitely.
Sophie Perks.
That's right.
Thank you so much. It was really, really pleasure to meet you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. The pleasure's been all mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję.